Let's get an update on this devastation now in Türkiye and Syria. The death toll following the two earthquakes in Türkiye and Syria has risen again. It now stands at over 8,700. Rescuers are racing against time while battling a heavy rain to assist the survivors trapped under the rubble. Türkiye has declared a state of emergency after the disaster struck both countries on Monday. Now, teams from South Africa, India, Germany and Taiwan are among those who have arrived in Türkiye to help with the funds and relief supplies. So far, about 70 countries have pledged their support.
Both of our countries are working very hard to support Turkey and the Syrian people in their hour of need. We've deployed more than 150 search and rescue personnel. The U.S. Agency for International Development has been leading in this effort. In addition, through the humanitarian partners that we fund in Syria, we're providing assistance to people in Syria to try to recover from the earthquake. But I know both of our countries are focused on this human tragedy that's taking place right now in Turkey and Syria.
All right, let's get an update now on the situation that is unfolding in Türkiye, and we speak to Mehmet Çelik, an editorial coordinator at the Daily Sabah. Mr. Çelik, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with the unfortunate number of people that continue to succumb, whether it is to their injuries or perhaps even the cold weather that is making rescue efforts quite difficult. Where does that stand right now, the death toll?
Well, so far the death toll is more than 7,000, unfortunately. 7,108 is the latest number, and more than 40,000 injured so far. The rescue operations are currently underway in all the provinces and all the regions. As you mentioned, the heavy weather conditions were playing, negatively as an obstacle in the operations, and the fact that the region is very wide, the magnitude is very strong, the damage is unfortunately very devastating, and it's very at a very large scale. So, despite the fact that all the state institutions and all the efforts have been mobilized, coupled with the international support, getting to every corner, every building that has collapsed has unfortunately been has not been possible.
Yeah.
The death toll continues to rise. The number of injured continue to rise, unfortunately. The rescue operations are underway, and there is many that are being rescued. Even at this hour, we get news that are after 50 some odd hours, still there's people that are coming alive from the rubbles and from the under the collapsed buildings.
Yeah.
We are afraid the number will continue to rise, but we are holding on to hope that more lives will be saved.
Yeah, and talking about that death toll, the United Nations expressing a fear that this could rise upwards of 20,000 people. So the figure of over 7,000 that you have mentioned, is that in Türkiye alone? What about Syria?
Yes, that is in Türkiye alone. In Syria, also, there is it's more than 2,000, unfortunately, losses there, and this is what has been reported so far. And we know that Syria's situation is a little bit different, given the fact that it is, the fact that it's in a war zone, and the logistics and the equipment and all other efforts are very limited. So, international community, I think, should be pouring some aid and some support to that region as well. And so the numbers there are not very clear, but the death toll has already surpassed more than 2,000 with the latest number that I had in hand.
Yeah.
So in combination, I think it is nearly 10,000 or more perhaps at this point. So I am afraid the number will reach to the numbers that you just mentioned, as this is not just an earthquake that affected one city in Turkey, but it affected, the whole Middle Eastern region, all the way to, it was felt all the way from Lebanon, Israel, and somewhere in Egypt. So the whole region has been affected. The magnitude is very strong. The area is very large. It is one of the, it is not only one of the great earthquakes in Turkey's history, but it is perhaps one of the natural disasters in the very recent world history. So, the death number will, I'm afraid, increase. We are all holding on to very strong hope.
There's a particular region, Mr. Çelik, that has been described as the epicenter of this earthquake in Turkey, and that is the region of Gaziantep. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. The understanding there is that that region possibly has the largest number of refugees coming out of Syria, given the civil war that has been taking place there. Are you able to tell us, or at least give us, the kind of devastation that has been visited upon that area?
The epicenter of the earthquake is actually Kahramanmaraş province, 2 districts. There were 2 earthquakes, 2 districts of Kahramanmaraş, which is north of Gaziantep. However, the whole region has been affected nearly equally. So some of the, very heavily populated areas in the region, these are very modern urban areas, but due to the war south of the border, they have been heavily populated by Syrian refugees. So, of course, at this point, it doesn't matter. It's, whether their nationalities don't matter. These are human beings. We are all, in it together. However, the devastation becomes larger where in places like Hatay, for example, the populations of Syrian refugees is high, so that makes the traditional town population a little higher. But at this point, the region itself is a very developed region relatively. Places like Gaziantep, Adana, Kahramanmaraş, Şanlıurfa, these are not rural areas, and neither is Hatay or Adıyaman. But the scale is very high, and the region is very wide. So the urban areas, the efforts have reached to urban areas. However, with rural areas, still efforts are underway. All state efforts have been mobilized, and everything at hand has been mobilized. People volunteer from all over Turkey to go there. Huge campaigns have been launched all over the country to get to every corner and every building in these provinces. Yeah. So infrastructure, plays a huge impact, negative impact. The fact that it was damaged also. The airports, some of the functions were damaged. The roads were damaged. But they are being, even at this point, they're already being restored and repaired. But, I think something, what we can be doing follow after the earthquake, it's something. But what could have been done prior to the earthquake, it's something that needs to be discussed also. The fact that we had a huge earthquake in 1999 brought us with new regulations and new safety codes for buildings. However, whether these buildings that collapsed were old or whether some of the loopholes were exploited or there was negligence when it comes to safety checks, is something else. So the huge damage is there, but those who were responsible for some of these negligence will for sure be also brought to justice. And this is one of the things that people also will be discussing after the devastation, after the pain, and after the rescue operations are completed.
Yeah, and you talk about that particular aspect. Some people are going to want to apportion blame. We're going to talk to that in a moment. Just watching international channels last night, scenes of just helplessness of citizens who are saying that our loved ones have been buried under that rubble, and the rescue effort is not quick enough. That criticism, how is the government responding to that? I know it's an overwhelming situation. How do you think government is handling this?
You know, in the face of this natural disaster, I think it is very difficult to say that any government, in a government more or a country more developed than Turkey or stronger than Turkey could have the capacity to reach to every corner immediately. Turkey is an earthquake-prone country. It has very, strong experience when it comes to dealing with natural disasters. Its rescue and search and rescue operation volunteers or agencies are very experienced, and they reach out to many parts of the world, in fact. However, the scale, unfortunately, puts a limit to human capacity in dealing with these efforts. Now, there is criticism, of course, and President Erdogan himself acknowledged the fact that there has been areas, yesterday when he was delivering his speech, there has been areas where the efforts unfortunately have not been reached to as of yesterday. But I think one thing that we can be sure is that coordination, deployment, and ensuring that all means are available has been ensured. But there is a limit to, the government's capacity, the human capacity. It is, the weather conditions were not in favor. I mean, roads were closed due to snow. This is not to say that, more could be done. Of course, more could be done. International communities also pouring a lot of support and sending many rescue teams. But, I think negligence, negligence is something else. Rather than limit of human capacity. I don't think there is negligence or lack of coordination or lack of deployment. I think there is just, the fact that the area is very huge and the support, the scale of and the magnitude of the earthquake is very strong that at this point, I mean, you need to have, the people that are being affected are nearly 14 million people are affected. These are not, low population areas. So you need to have millions and millions of volunteers to reach out to these areas. And, I mean, I don't know any country that has this capacity in face of a natural disaster that can just deploy millions of volunteers to go to every building.
Yeah.
The state has mobilized all the efforts. Whether this is limited or whether this is, enough at this point, it's something else. But I don't think there is the lack of coordination. I don't think there is lack of negligence or support or, ensuring that all means are available. The military has taken part. All public and private institutions have all mobilized their means. President Erdogan today, he will be in the region himself. The government has ensured that all ministers from the cabinet are all in location in one province. The governors have been receiving support by matching them with additional governors from other cities. So all means are being made available. However, the scale, unfortunately, makes it very difficult to reach to every building, every collapsed infrastructure or structure right away.
Let's conclude with the point that you have just made, that Turkey is an earthquake-prone country. You've mentioned, I think, 1999. This particular earthquake is being compared to the one that perhaps was the largest previously, and that was in 1939. But in terms of planning, are you saying that after the previous earthquake, government may have promised to either plan better for these earthquakes, given that the country is prone to earthquakes? What is it that could have been done to mitigate the impact?
Look, I think the government has ensured that there are safety regulations and certain laws in place. The implementation have also been very firm. The government has been very firm on these. And one of the examples of this could be very recently we had an earthquake in northwest part of Turkey, which was struck by the 1999 earthquake. It was a very strong magnitude then too, but the damage was very limited given the fact that most of the buildings were built after the earthquake, were strengthened with the new law, and their safety regulations were on par. However, this region particularly, some of the older buildings have collapsed, but in addition to the safety regulations, I think the city's geographic location plays a huge part on this too. The fact that the magnitude was very close to the surface, the geographic, geophysical conditions of for example, places like Hatay has made the damage a lot stronger. With regards to the government's negligence, I think the government has all the laws in place, but the auditing private auditing firms, for example, that are supposed to check on some of these buildings may have neglected what they were supposed to do. So this is something that will be for sure brought to account for whoever is responsible from this. But with regards to the government regulations, in places like Istanbul, for example, there's many old buildings, but an urban transformation has been taking place, and this has been undergoing in many other parts of Turkey where there is risk of earthquake as well. So the government cannot get to every single brick put on every building construction. I think this has to be this has to be completing each other with government laws and regulation, and as well as the public awareness and those who are actually building, buildings, and they put profit before human lives when they are setting up these buildings.
Oh, Mr. Çelik, it's quite a devastation that Syria and Turkey are experiencing at the moment. I hate to ask this final question, but perhaps it is one that has to be asked given the numbers of people who have sadly died. It's huge numbers, in their thousands. What is the plan to bury these people? Are families going to do this by themselves, or is the state going to conduct mass burials?
I will end this. I'll answer your last question by saying this. Turkey is one of the countries that, unites very well when it comes to struggles. I think, be it natural disasters or be it other incidents where the nation has to unite and deal with whatever comes to their door as a whole. I think right now the priority is to ensure that every single life is being saved, those injured being treated, those who have survived find psychological or find some sort of moral support, and those who will be buried, unfortunately, those who have lost their lives, the government will make sure that every one of them receive their, the respect that they deserve when it comes to their burial procedures. There will not, as far as I know as of now, there will not be any mass burials, and Turkey will make sure that with its people and the government hand in hand will make sure that every single person, every single life that has been lost will receive their final respect when they are being buried.
Mehmet Çelik, he is an editorial coordinator at the Daily Sabah. Thank you very much for painting a picture of exactly what is going on in Turkey. That's where he is, that's the country he is in at the moment, Istanbul, but also we know that Syria is the other country that is also seeing quite similar devastation, although the war there is perhaps making it difficult for rescue teams to get in there. We have yet to really see the amount of devastation inside Syria.